Hi everyone, my name is Arwa and today I want to talk to you about the power of your location because where we decide to live matters. I think we all already know that our environment is important. We've all heard things like you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. If you don't like your life, it changed your environment. Sometimes you need to leave a place to become who you're meant to become. And yes, all of these statements are true. But since I'm an astrologer, I want to take this conversation deeper because there is a powerful tool that can help us understand why certain places activate certain parts of us. And that tool is called AstroCartoGraphy. So, what is AstroCartoGraphy? AstroCartoGraphy is a branch of astrology that helps you map your unique birth chart into the globe. In simple terms, it shows how different locations around the world can influence your life. The way I like to see it, or the way I like to explain it, is that astrocartography is a tool that checks your compatibility with any location on Earth. Just like you would check your compatibility with another person, astrocartography is there to check your compatibility with a land, with a city. It shows you where you may feel more confident, where you may feel at home, where you may attract love more easily, where your career expands, where you may feel challenged. Basically, where your purpose, visibility, relationships, healing, creativity, or money becomes louder. For example, have you ever visited a place and instantly felt at home? Or have you ever gone somewhere and suddenly felt more attractive? People noticed you more. Dating might have felt easier. You might have felt more magnetic, more attractive. You're more open, you're more alive. Or maybe you've been somewhere and suddenly there are more career opportunities there. You felt more visible, more confident, more respected. Like people finally see you. Or maybe the opposite happened. You went somewhere and felt heavy, blocked, lonely, exhausted, like everything was harder than it needed to be, or what it felt like in a previous location. Well, guess what? Astrocartography explains to you why. The way I see it, astrocartography is a key that unlocks doors, just like transits activate certain planets and houses during different times in our life. Astrocartography is that tool that you can use to proactively activate certain parts of your chart. Another way I like to explain it is that think about it like a radio tuning in. Your birth chart is a full radio system, and different locations tune you into different frequency. One place will turn up your Venus, which is your love, beauty, pleasure, money. Another place will turn up your Mars, which is drive, courage, action, ambition, and heat. Another place will turn up your Jupiter, which is expansion, travel, opportunity, abundance, and growth. And another place will turn up your Saturn, which is responsibility, discipline, pressure, and long-term building. But, and this is super important, whether the frequency feels supported, intense, exciting, or overwhelming depends on your chart. Let me share with you my personal experience. Astrocartography is not just something that I studied from a book. I've lived in 5 countries so far, and I've traveled to pretty much all my astrocartography lines except for Venus. And I've seen how different places activate different parts of me. One of my favorite, and I guess because it's the latest example, is Mexico. When I moved to Mexico, I was on my Jupiter line. This is where I started my astrology business. This is where I met my husband. This is where so many parts of me have opened up. But it wasn't just my Jupiter line. It was the fact that in my relocation chart, my stellium of planets moved to the 5th house. And 5th house is about love, dating, expression, self-employment, if that is something that you want to do. I don't have any fire in my chart. I'm mostly water. Having a business was never something I wanted or even thought. The idea of it never seemed appealing. Like I said, I have no fire. Or honestly, having a business is a masculine thing. Not saying that women cannot have their businesses. Of course you can. But it just did not seem appealing to me, especially as someone who struggled with chronic fatigue pretty much all my 20s and my teens. So the idea of having a business, It was the last thing I thought that would happen to me, but that's what happened when I moved to Mexico because of how my chart shifted and what it opened for me. Same thing with getting married. I actually never thought about getting married. I wasn't really looking for a long-term partner. But that's exactly what happened to me while I was in this location because of what it activated for me. This is what astrocartography is all about. So let me get into it. To the best part, let me show you how you can pull up your map for free and how to interpret the lines. Okay, so let me show you how to pull up your map for free. The best website for this is astro.com. So astro.com. If you don't already have an account, I want you to create an account here. So create a free user profile. Fill in all the details here, your name. And once you do that, you'll be able, I think they will send you an email and then you'll be able to confirm and log in. So I'm gonna fast forward to where I've already created an account. I'm gonna log in. I've put a testing sample here. So once you log in, you're going to go to user profile, add new Astro data, put in your data, and I believe you can put up to like 200 people. But anyways, the most important person is you. So you're gonna fill in, add Astro data, put in your name, your time of birth. You do need your time of birth, and make sure it is correct, like AM or PM. And then the year, sorry, not the year, the date, place of birth, and the city. Okay. And then you're going to go and click on it. And you're going to scroll all the way down. And it is here, Astro Click Travel. So you're going to click on this here. And here is your free astrocartography map. You can zoom in through continents or the world. So let's start with the world first. Click on go. And you will be able to scroll here. But you can also zoom in and we will go through continent. But basically, this is your free astrocartography map. I will go through the lines in a second and tell you what it means. You can view it through the world or you can zoom in even closer and select continent by continent. So now let me give you an overview of what the different lines mean. First of all, you can also look up online what these symbols mean, but I will go through them now. I will go over the planetary lines meaning in general. Just know that this is really a generalized meaning. It will really depend on your natal chart, but I will give you an overview of each planet. And the second thing I want to mention is that every planet will have 4 lines. So for example, the moon here, you have moon DS, which is the descendant, moon IC, which is your 4th house, and moon ascendant, which is, this will be positions the moon in the 1st house, and then moon MC. I'm not going to explain what the different angles mean in this video. I just want to go through what the different planetary lines, and I will explain this in details. I will make a series for each planet and what it means through each angle for each planet. But for this video, for now, I'm just going to go through over each of the planets. So let's start with the sun. The sun is the circle with the dot inside. The sun can bring visibility, confidence, identity, vitality, leadership, and being seen. If you feel like you're not seen where you are, or maybe you don't have like as much energy, the sun is a great line to fear. These places on the sun line help you feel more alive, more expressed, and more connected to you, your purpose. Second, let's go through the moon. The moon is this one here, the blue line. And moon can bring emotional connection, home, family, belonging, intuition, and even memories. Places on the moon can deeply feel familiar or emotional, sometimes comforting and sometimes can be overwhelming. It depends on how emotional you want to get. Mercury lines is the green one here. So you have 2 green. It's the light green, the dark green is Venus. So I'll zoom in. This is your Mercury line, and Mercury can bring communication, writing, teaching, learning. This is a great line if you want to go and write a book, launch a podcast. These are often great for studying, speaking, creating content, building community, or even meeting people. Next, let's go through Venus. So Venus is the dark green. Venus can bring love, beauty, art, money, attraction, dating, social life. For us ladies, this is probably a line that we will also feel more beautiful in. The popular saying out there is that Venus is your love line. This is where you find love. I am going to debunk this and break it down in more details in another video. However, yes, it can bring love for some people. However, don't limit it just to love. Venus is also money and pleasure and art. Next is Mars, and that is your red line. Mars has a bad reputation. It is one of the malefic. However, Mars is also drive. Mars is ambition. Mars is courage, action, sexuality, and momentum. I am currently living on my Mars, and I'm super grateful that I took a chance and moved to my Mars line. This is where I've built my business. This is where I was able to scale my business in the first 11 months of being here. Does it have a lot of fire? For sure. However, if you're aware of this and you can channel the fire into something productive, which is what I'm doing here, then it can bring amazing results. Next is your Jupiter. So Jupiter is the pink line. It looks like a 4. So Jupiter is the line of expansion, opportunities, travel, education, wisdom, abundance, growth, and faith. So there's a lot of things there. Jupiter, it's known as the planet of expansion and abundance, but expansion and abundance of what exactly? This will depend on your natal chart. Places on this line can open doors for you, but Jupiter also magnifies. So it can expand your blessing, but it can also create excess. And by excess, I mean like overindulging in food, overindulging in sweets, or overspending. Okay, next is your Saturn line, and that's the maroon. It looks like a 5. Saturn also has a bad reputation. Saturn is the planet of karma. Saturn is the planet of delay. But let me tell you, Saturn is the planet of also discipline, maturity, commitment. Can this line bring some, of course, challenges, but Saturn is the planet that rewards us the most. Saturn is the planet of mastery. Saturn is the planet of commitment and boundaries. Probably it's not going to be easier. It's not going to be as light as sun. Again, depends on your chart. However, please do not avoid your Saturn and Mars line. If there's anything I want you to take from this video, anything you take from me is that there is no such thing as bad lines. It really does depend on your chart. Going back to Saturn, on these places, you can build a legacy, mastering something, and become more disciplined and structured. I will tell you now, don't go to a Saturn line if you don't want to get disciplined, if you don't want to build something. That's where I would say this line can be very challenging, because let's say you're going there to like retire or like YOLO life, then don't go to your Saturn line. Okay, next is Uranus. Uranus is this light blue, is the planet of freedom, awakening, renovation, disruption, independence, and sudden change. It is the planet of instability. It is the planet of upheaval. However, like I said, Uranus is also the planet of freedom. It's the planet of awakening. It is here to liberate you. If you are after stability, then maybe not. However, again, please don't avoid Uranus. It will depend on your chart, what it will bring. For me, I've lived on my Uranus ascendant. That's where I had my spiritual awakening, loved China, and I met my husband on my Uranus descendant. So please do not, again, I'm just trying to prove to you that there is no such thing as bad lines. It depends on your chart. Okay, next, Neptune is the purple line. Neptune is the planet of spirituality, dreams, creativity, compassion, healing, mysticism, and surrender. Neptune is very dreamy. It is the higher octave of Venus. However, keep in mind that Neptune line can also bring confusion, escapism, and illusion. I would say be careful of taking drugs here or overindulging in drugs, let's say. And yeah, just being too much in your head. You do need to ground yourself a lot on a Neptune line. Pluto is the black with the P here. There are 2 black. The North Node is one and Pluto is the other one. So Pluto, like I said, is the P. And Pluto is the planet of transformation, power, shadow work, rebirth, intensity, obsession, but also healing and deep psychological change. Pluto lines are rarely casual. Pluto tends to change you from the inside out. It is a very intense line, so caution. However, again, it's not bad. Some people will do better than Pluto line, and I say this from experience. I was born on a Pluto line, so some people will find some of those lines easier than other depending on their chart, and I'll break this in future videos. But yes, what you need to know is that Pluto does bring transformation. In what area of life exactly, it will depend on your chart. Okay, so Chiron is not a planet, it's an asteroid, and you can actually check so many other asteroids if you have a paid software. However, in astro.com, you have Chiron included, and it has this circle with a K. So, what is Chiron? Chiron is known as the wounded healer. Chiron lines can bring healing, it can bring up your wounds, can be a great teacher, and places where your pain can become your medicine. Now, this might sound painful for some of you. You might not want to go to your Chiron line, but what I can tell you for sure is that people who are interested in healing, maybe you want to go on a retreat or healing is part of what you do, Chiron lines can be really powerful because it is the line of healing, or let's say it'll trigger your healing. If you're not interested in that stuff and you just want to have fun, or you want to go on a vacation, maybe don't go to your Chiron line. But my point is, again, I want you to not fear any of these lines. Chiron is likely to feel tender, but it can also activate your gifts as a healer, guide, or a teacher. Okay, next is your North Node. So this is the other black line with, I don't even know how to explain this symbol, but this is your North Node line. And the North Node natally, this is what our soul is moving towards. Some people, say it's your purpose, but I've broken down this, what it means in my Instagram. When we say purpose, the way I like to explain it is the North Node is not exactly what you're meant to do, but it's more about what your soul is here to evolve towards, move towards. But when it comes to astrocartography, your North Node lines are going to be lines, can be really intense because they're stretching you. Okay, the North Node is a point of like, it's the unknown. It's an unfamiliar part. Some of those lines are also going to feel fated. You're meant to go there. So it can bring you different fated events depending on which angle. For example, if it's a North Node descendant, this can bring you some fated relationships for sure. But the point I would say, how I would explain these North Node lines is that they're connected to your soul's direction. They're going to stretch you, but they're also amazing to move you towards where your higher version, your best version, I would say. These places can pull you forward, but they may also ask you to leave your comfort zone. Moving forward, that means also letting go of the past and letting go of what we are used to. So these are all your planetary lines. And like I said, you can find them through astro.com. Again, just keep in mind that this is just the surface level. You always need to look at your natal chart and the relocation chart for your personalized interpretation. So if you are curious about astrocartography, start by looking at your map. Notice the places you have lived. Notice the places that you have loved. Notice the places that have maybe challenged you or changed you, or perhaps the places that you have a strong pull to go to. In future videos, I'll be breaking down the different planetary lines in more details. I'm going to talk about destiny points, params, asteroids, and most importantly, some of the most common mistakes people make with astrocartography and the misunderstanding about it. Until then, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video.